So Jim Ratcliffe wants Thomas Tuchel. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. A huge decision has still not been made in regards to Ten Hag's future. Business as usual is what they're saying, is what they're calling it at the moment. But is it business as usual? Is there some kind of form of secret communications ongoing with other managers? Obviously, clearly not as public as it was last time over the summer, but I have my suspicions, and I'll tell you the reasons for that in a minute. We've also had reports from Samuel Luckhurst, who's been pushing this Thomas Tuchel thing quite a bit, and even going as far to say Sir Jim Ratcliffe. That's basically no. Thomas Tuchel is Sir Jim Ratcliffe's favourite candidate to take over at Manchester United, and if he's the guy who has the final say, I know some people are saying, well, kind of Wilcox and Ashworth, Ashworth and Barada in particular are more like his counsel. Maybe they'll kind of go against it and advise against it, but I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe's going to get the say ultimately. So I'm going to talk about Thomas Tuchel, what he could potentially bring to Manchester United, what he couldn't bring, and what could be the downside of bringing him to the club as well. So that's going to be a balanced kind of perspective. I've got some stats I want to go through. I've got look at his time at Dortmund, PSG, Bayern Munich, some other little bits like that. I want to discuss Andre Onana and the media agenda that's going against him currently at the minute, even though he's performing pretty well, I'd say. He's been one of our better players. And then also Lenny Yoro has posted something on Instagram and his social media saying that he's on his way back. He's running on the treadmill and he's getting closer and closer and closer. So should be a few weeks out from seeing Lenny Yoro in the team, which is obviously a massive, massive plus and a massive bonus for the club. So definitely excited to talk about that and also what he could offer to the team, because if we're lacking anywhere at the moment, it is centre-back partnerships. You had De Ligt and Lisandro Martinez dropped in the game after Porto because he had an absolute stinker. Having someone like Lenny Yoro coming back can only be a positive, and I think he flies right into there. But I'll discuss more on Yoro at the end of the show. I want to talk about Thomas Tuchel. Samuel Luckhurst put out this morning that Thomas Tuchel was Sir Jim Ratcliffe's favoured candidate had Man United sacked Erik Ten Hag in the summer. Now, let's take my Crocs off. We all know about the meetings in Monaco. And what was being explained was that the first meeting went really, really well. Good dialogue, good back and forth, seemed very promising. And then they had a second meeting, I think, with him, and then it just went to shit. And I probably know why it's gone to shit. But before I get into that, let's just discuss Thomas Tuchel as a possibility. I don't want to be disrespectful to the manager because Erik Ten Hag is still in charge. But if he is the next man to come in, we've got to have a bit of a clue to what he's going to bring, what type of manager he is. And one thing I will say about Thomas Tuchel is he is someone who I've always in particular thought in the back of my mind who was tailor-made for Manchester United personally. I think he's an excellent communicator, someone who would definitely not be blinded by the lights at Old Trafford. He's got a track record of enhancing players tactically. He's extremely competitive. He's got a particular philosophy which focuses on teamwork, discipline, innovation, and individual development of players. Tell me we don't need that right now. Tell me we don't need that right now. His record against big teams when he came in so far, and we've got a couple of big games coming up over in October and December, November and December, should I say. 1-0 against Spurs, 1-0 against Atletico Madrid, 0-0 against United, 1-0 against Liverpool, 2-0 against Atletico Madrid, 2-0 against Porto, and 1-0 against Porto again. 1-0 against Man City. That was when he first kind of came in and was finding his feet. Clean sheets and 3 points against big teams and tough games. His record after 50 games at Chelsea, 32 wins, 11 draws, 7 losses, 31 clean sheets, 24 goals conceded, and 2 trophies. Again, tell me that isn't something that we need right now. He won 32 of his first 50 Champions League matches as a manager, a new record in the competition. So we're talking about what? One, defensively being sound. Definitely need that. The structure, tactically, we need that discipline in the team. We need it because we concede way too many goals. Porto, Spurs, Liverpool. So that is like a tick off the sheet straight away. Record in Europe, really, really good. As soon as he come the first 50 games, 32 that he won. And obviously there's quite a few draws in there as well. Fantastic. And obviously I don't think that includes Chelsea. That's Dortmund as well and other teams. But still a very, very good record, right? So he has this nous of knowing how to get the job done, keeping a clean sheet and 3 points, which is great. If we expand that record then and we take a look at his time at Chelsea in total as a head coach, and look, this is going to be a balanced argument. I'm not just praising him. I'm going to get into the negative stuff later on. But at Chelsea as a head coach, 100 games, 63 wins, 19 draws, 18 defeats, 49 clean sheets, 3 major trophies, including 3 wins and 2 defeats on penalties, Champions League, Super Cup, Club World Cup, and the 3 trophies that he won. On average, he has 2 points per match. So when he was at Bayern, Chelsea, Dortmund, and PSG. These are all stats. And I'm like, yes, 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 yes. I think, look, one thing that's inevitable is if he did come in, which I still don't think will happen because I'll explain why in a moment. I think he's going to fall out with some players for sure. I think some of your favourites might end up going, or they might end up being, become surplus to requirements. And there might be some unpopular decisions that are being made, but he will make those decisions. I don't think you will get favouritism with him unless the players perform in a certain way. I think he will potentially bring in some experienced heads. So it's interesting to see how him and Ineos would work together if it did happen. But this is where the downside of Tuchel comes in. So he falls out with players quite a lot. I think that's evident. You've seen that at every club he's been at pretty much. Todd Bowley described Tuchel as a nightmare to work with in terms of recruitment. At Dortmund, Tuchel was fired just days after the win in the DFB Pokal, his only trophy at the club. He reported a difficulty working with the chief executive, Jans Joachim Watzke, and was upset by the transfers of some of the key players. At Bayern Munich, he had rifts, which eventually led to his departure. Some were saying that Tuchel's idea and man management style conflicted with his super ego type of football. So look, it's history. Every single club, it's like it's been an issue, or it's purely recruitment. So at this point, I don't think speculation to say probably the second meeting that Ineos had with him, they was talking about recruitment and like, right, we want to bring in these type of players. This is the way we want to play football. And Tuchel was like, well, that's not the way I play football. If I was to come in, I'd want to bring in these kind of guys. I want to do this. I want to change this up. I want to do that. Blah blah blah. And Ineos might have looked at it and gone, "Well, that's not our vision." And he went, "Right, well, it's not my vision either. So, what do you want to do about it?" And they kind of, that's where the meeting kind of ended. So, I don't know how you find middle ground in that kind of like. Do you know what I mean? Where does the middle ground come in? Whether they say, "Right, we want this type of player, but we believe your kind of style would suit this." I don't know if it's one focused vision from Ineos, or they are open to being flexible and saying, right, we'll recruit these kind of players, but we want to see you get results. So yeah, I don't know if they've gone back to the drawing board. The reports at the moment that's coming out is that they haven't. So you can only go off that, can't you? Dan Errington saying, hello everyone as well. How are we all doing? By the way, are we good? Afternoon show back. We didn't do one yesterday because it was quite quiet. But yeah, I'm interested to get all your thoughts about Tuchel, so do get him in. But Dan saying, should either go for Frank Amorim or if it's possible, Nagelsmann. With Amorim, I haven't seen too much of him, so I can't really comment on that. Thomas Frank, I think, is a fantastic coach. I turned my nose up at him last year. I don't know why I did it. You can't just, because it's not a big name, turn your nose up at it. I think he's genuinely a really good coach. To do what he's done with Brentford, not to mention how tactically disciplined they are and, some of the big teams that they beat as well. I think, if anything, if Thomas Frank doesn't go to Man United, he definitely deserves a next job up. Where that'll be, I don't know. But I think he deserves it for sure. And Nagelsmann, likewise as well. I like what he did at Germany. I like what he did at Leipzig. But he's at Germany right now. So is he going to juggle both things? I don't think so. I think United requires all your focus, doesn't it? As you've seen from Ten Hag, Ole, Mourinho, it takes all your focus away. You can't do 2 jobs at the same time. And he seems like he's pretty happy at Germany at the minute, so I can't see that happening personally, but he's another great coach. Inzaghi is another one that's been mentioned that I'm a fan of, but doesn't even speak English, and Ornstein kind of put that fire out on NBC the other day, so that doesn't seem one that's, dinger. And it's like McMillan says, Nagelsmann has no interest in managing United. Amorim will be at City next with their sporting director, Viana, who's replacing Bergenstein next summer. Yeah, very good point. Thiago Motta's just moved to Juventus. So, you're looking at it, it's not like it's obvious options out there at the moment. There's one guy for me who's a very good option and is without a job, and that's Tuchel, as I've already touched on. Maybe there's others, but the rest of them are either in jobs. So it makes it extremely difficult, especially when you are getting to like the tricky part of the season. When you start putting into those, pushing into those Christmas kind of calendar, and you've got FA Cup games, Carabao Cup games in Europe. It's very tricky to go to a club then and say, right, Brentford, we know you're doing really, really well. You've had a fantastic start. You've just lost your star striker. We're going to take your manager as well. And they're going to be like, you're fucking not. And if you are, you're going to be paying a lot of money for it. So good luck with that one. That's why it's difficult, extremely difficult. Andy's saying this decision will end up getting toxic for Ineos if they keep Erik Ten. I'm going to give you the latest updates on that very shortly, Andy. Because let's be honest, the majority of updates, I mean, we've been joking about on our social medias, putting stuff out like breaking news. So Dave Brailsford likes pineapple on his pizza. Breaking news: so Jim Ratcliffe has got a meal deal with Thai Sweet McCoy's Chili Crisp and a Ribena. Just taking a piss because everyone is just breaking news, but the same thing. You've got fucking Sky Caviar. I can't even get into that because he frustrates the life out of me. UTFR, when we were in the relegation zone in December, that's when we might see some action. Erik Ten Hag won't change his tactics and we'll keep getting beat. Yeah, I think we've experienced enough now to know he's going to be stubborn and stick with, you know, what he's doing. Haven't Ineos spoken with Tuchel and both parties side against it? Yeah, okay, that's what I mean. I kind of touched on that. Frank would crumble with the pressure. That's an interesting take. That's why I mentioned maybe it's more like I think he needs to step up, maybe to a Brighton kind of level club. I'm not saying Brighton because obviously they're doing really well with their new coach, but I just mean that kind of level. I think Thomas Frank can step up, Europa League kind of area. Maybe West Ham could be a good fit for him. I think Lopetegui's been dog shit since he's gone in there, and the amount of money that they've spent, I think his tether's short. I know they beat Ipswich like 4-1 the other day, but if I'm West Ham, Thomas Frank is someone I would look at, definitely. Gasperini would be someone also thinking about. Yep. Amazing job at Atalanta. Love the football he play. His development of young players as well. Phenomenal. Can't disagree with any of your comments. I think you're spot on. The latest update we've had, by the way, this again from Luckhurst, so take it for what you will. Manchester United are yet to clarify Erik Ten Hag's future, obviously, following their executive meeting in London on Tuesday. There have been conflicting whispers regarding Ten Hag's fate, and a source said nothing should be read into the club's failure to communicate an outcome on Tuesday. Right, so nothing should be read into the club's failure to communicate. Obviously, people are going to speculate. When you don't give a concrete answer and you don't brief it out and say to Laurie Ritwell or something like that, right, we're sticking with him. He's going to stay for the next couple of weeks. There's just going to be speculation. People are going to be making shit up because that's what the media does. That is what journalists do, especially around United. This story has become bigger than what's going on with Man City, with Tiki Bergenstein leaving and all the Premier League shit. It's bigger than internationals because no one gives a fuck about internationals. Man United is still massive, even when we're dog shit. That's how big of a club we are. So, yeah. But thoughts on Tuchel, because you've all mentioned other managers, but I want to get your individual thoughts on him as a manager. Would you take it if it got announced? Let's describe a hypothetical situation, right? You're doing whatever you're doing. You're on your way to work. You're having your coffee in your morning. You're listening to TalkSport or the radio. No one listens to TalkSport. Don't worry about that. You're listening to, let's say, BBC Manchester, and it's coming through. You got Gaz Drinkwater on the other end. Big up, Gaz. And he's talking about Manchester United have just announced that they are bringing in Thomas Tuchel as the manager on a 2 to 3 year deal, as United's results have been slumped under the current manager, Erik Ten Hag, who has now left his position. How would you feel about, what would your first initial thoughts be? Would you be like, that's a good decision? He's someone we need, we crave at the minute. I mentioned all these records before. I can go back through him. His impact instantly at Chelsea was mega. And don't forget, Chelsea were leaking a shitload of goals under Lampard, wasn't it, before Tuchel came in. Similar situation at the minute. No real tactics or philosophy on the pitch. Conceding a lot of goals. I know we've got 4 clean sheets. I'm going to get into that in a minute, but yeah. We've got Biasio Thompson, sorry if I pronounced that name wrong, saying Tuchel won the league twice with PSG. That's it. Di Matteo also won the Champions League with Chelsea. Means nothing. Well, I went through, won the league twice. Yeah, PSG is one of those. No one's won anything at PSG. I'm pretty sure Unai Emery's been at PSG, won nothing. Poch has been at PSG, won nothing really apart from league titles. It is just one of those clubs. No one's won a European trophy with PSG. And think about the managers that they've had in. So that's not really a comparison for me, personally. But he won DFB Cup with Dortmund as well. Did a great job with Mainz initially when he first came into the game. I think he's a good manager, man. Why don't Ineos footballing people get a manager that plays they want to know and throwing shit at the wall and hope it sticks? I think it's more Inzaghi doesn't want to leave into mid-season. Yeah, I would probably, I see that. I understand. That's why I'm saying it's so difficult. And that's why I think Tuchel's name's being pushed more and more, because he's the only one without a job at the minute. But remember all the links in the summer? all the stuff that's been pushed out, he wants to return to the Premier League. He definitely wants to return to the Premier League. Manchester United is the biggest club in the Premier League, despite whatever position we're in. It might not be the most successful at the moment, but we are the biggest club, and it's the toughest job. And what a manager does, especially when you go like Thomas Tuchel, he looks at it and says, I'm that guy to, look, I don't care if they've had Mourinho, if they've had Van Gaal, if they've had Ole, Rangnick, all these guys who he knows obviously very well in Rangnick. And I'm sure he will seek counsel of him as well about the club and the job, but very different time periods when Rangnick was there as to what it's like now. I think he's the one. He is at the minute. I quite like TalkSport better than Radio 1. No, look, listen, with TalkSport, it's a weird one because I like some of the people that go on there. So if I want to listen to, someone's talking about ownership and Sir Jim Ratcliffe and everything, I'll probably listen to Simon Jordan. I don't like him sometimes. I think he's a bit of a snobby bastard, let's just say, to use nicer words. But I think he knows his shit when it comes to stuff about that, so I'll listen to it. Flex is on there now. I like Flex. I've met Flex a couple of times before. Really, really nice guy, knows his stuff. I'll listen to certain people on there. But when Jamie O'Hara's on there, or Gabby Agbonglehor's on there, or just people who are going in there with a fixed agenda and bring United fans in or on the phone to lightning rod them, basically, that's what I don't like about their model. I really don't. That's like me getting someone on here who, let's just say, is just really emotional, don't really know anything about the club, and just making him look like an idiot just for the sake of clicks and views. Like, that's why I don't like that model. And the expectations at Manchester United have always been high. McMillan said we want consistency, yet we want to hire gaffers who will exit stage left. Ineos are clearly not wanting that poo storm. Poo storm is is something definitely different I've never heard before. I get it, because we're going against it. Ineos are, we think they're about, long term, and we want to work with the coach, and maybe they will go down that route of we want to get our own kind of, this is going to kill me to say it, but our own kind of Arteta. Maybe they will go get a McKenna and think, right, we can build with this guy. But how do you say to United fans who have just been through, let's say, the last 6 years under Ole, Rangnick and Ten Hag, how do you say to those fans, patience, another 3 years and we'll be there? You can't. We need something right now. I've always been one of those guys like, yeah, long-term vision is fantastic. We've got a lot of young players. Great. Fantastic. I like it. That doesn't mean you still can't win. This young player narrative is bollocks. Monaco won a league title and went really far in the Champions League with an extremely young team. Talented team, but extremely young team. Arsenal's average age profile is about 24. It's bullshit. So if you bring in some experienced players on top of that, you can definitely win. But we need some senior figureheads. I think we need a British core in there as well, which has got nothing to do with nationalities or anything. But I'm just saying, you look at typically United teams that have won, they've had amazing foreign players like Erik Cantona, Jaap Stam. The list is endless. But you've got a British core of players. Paul Scholes, Gary Neville, Wayne Rooney, David Beckham, blended with this foreign talent as well. Who's that leader in the dressing room in a minute? I don't know. Bruno Hamza says, get Tuchel now. Dan saying, can't stand O'Hara and Gabby. Really like listening to Jordan and Goldstein and Ben. I like Goldstein, but a lot of people don't. I don't know why, but I'm a fan of Goldstein. If Ineos are preaching we want to win the league in 3 years and are keeping Erik Ten Hag, I wonder what the standards are. That's the point. They can't. They're almost contradicting themselves, aren't they? If they're saying that Project 150 or whatever it is, and we want to win the league in 2028, you bring in a young manager you want to work with, it's not going to happen in 3 years, is it? You're then more looking at a 5 to 6 year plan, which I just don't think. I don't want to speak for United fans in general, but I just don't think they would grab onto, personally. Bahir MH says, I doubt Tuchel is a project manager. I don't know if he's known for developing young players. Some reports suggest he can be toxic towards players and he regularly falls out with the higher-ups. He does fall out with the higher-ups. He does argue with the players. But that's because his demands are so high. And I don't have a problem with that personally. He does develop young players. Look at Mason Mount. Look at Kai Havertz at Chelsea. I know, you can look at it either way. Maybe it didn't work out. But there was young players in that Chelsea team who he worked with. There was also experienced players like your Aspilicuetas, your Rudigers. There's a blend of both. That's what I'm talking about. But I get it. I get the concerns. I just want to win right now. And I'm sorry if that's if that's an idiot for wanting instant success, but I think that's what we need. You look at how we're performing at the start of the season, it's been so flat and disappointing. I want to start winning games. I want to keep clean sheets, and I think Tuchel can do that. You know, they're trying to buy time at the minute. Maybe an interim comes in. A lot of people asking for a Ruud van Nistelrooy. I've mentioned my feelings on that. I don't think that's the right decision. But are you not just putting a plaster over it anyway if you're doing that with an interim? Or basically writing off the season saying, nah. Do you know what I mean? We're midway through the season. Someone like Tuchel coming in now could have a massive impact. You could get back into the top 4, which is huge for revenue. You could start to do well in Europa League and go far in there. I'd take that any day. Any day. When we were looking at managers in the summer, Ashworth and Barada weren't in the door yet. Now they're going to look and scrutinise the potentials a lot more, so won't rush. Yeah, look, everyone's entitled to it. Everyone's going to feel different about it, and I get both sides of the fences, which is why I said about Tuchel. I went through all these stats. Amazing, but his time at Dortmund, you know, Todd Bowler described as a nightmare. I think Hans Joachim Watzke had a disagreement with him at Dortmund as well. Like, there was a load of things. He obviously had rifts at Bayern Munich, but Bayern Munich was a bit of a shit show anyway. So, yeah, look, one thing I definitely would have said is under the previous regime, there would have been massive clashes. But I think if Sir Jim Ratcliffe, if Thomas Tuchel is his favourite, he obviously has a massive influence over this decision. People will say it's not. It's going to be Barada and Ashworth who make the call. But I think he has a big say in it. And that's why I wouldn't be surprised if Tuchel came in and made us defensively sound. Now, speaking of being defensively sound, there is an agenda at the moment by your kind of talk sports and United stands and all this bollocks talking about not Thomas Tuchel, talking about Andre Onana as if he's still a bag of shit and saying we should have never got rid of De Gea because he saved 2 penalties at Fiorentina. Like, let's just be clear about this. The Golden Glove race right now is Andre Onana. He's at the top with 4 clean sheets. Then it's Alisson Becker. Then it's David Raya. Then it's Nick Pope. That doesn't glorify him as the best goalkeeper in the league, but that's just stats first and foremost. You look at some of his expected saves. He's like second. Other metrics involved with football. I haven't got them up on the thing, but I've seen a whole kind of breakdown of it. He is right up there. And some of the saves that he's made as well. There's been a couple of question marks about his positioning. I think on Liverpool's 3rd goal, for example, for sure. But I think out of all of our players that have been playing consistently on the pitch, to say he's been one of the better ones, or one of the best ones, that isn't an outlandish comment. And I will fully back that. So the media are going out and pushing this fucking De Gea narrative that, and like, it's weird because last season I absolutely agreed with it. I was like, maybe it was the wrong decision. But guess what? Football opinion changes, right? So I think he's had a good start to the season. And I think only by being still so negative about him can only be negative for the situation. Praise him when he does well, criticise him when he goes wrong. He's doing well at the minute. Stop having a fixed fucking narrative. Pisses me off. We're going to stick with the defence as well, but let me know your feelings about Andre Onana. Are you still not convinced about him? Are you happy with the start to the season? Yeah, let me know your thoughts and feelings, and I'll get into your comments in a moment. And please do smash a like on the video for us and subscribe to the channel. We're on 7,150 subs on the road to 10k. I can't do it without you, so please do hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel. Lenny Yoro. Lenny. Let me get a quick swig of drink. Like a giant Sprite. Just 2 seconds. Driest throat ever. Better. Lubricate that throat. Like that. So, Lenny Yoro posted a video on his socials, I think, again this morning, of him running on a treadmill, saying he's going to be back really, really soon. Now, I think it was initially quoted that he'd be back mid-November. It might be a little bit earlier than that, which is fantastic. Don't want to rush him back. But again, we've talked about the centre-backs. You know, De Ligt underwhelming the past couple of weeks. Lissandro's had a bad start to the season anyway. Evans came in and done a wonderful job, and Maguire did as well. But Maguire's now injured, and there's not really longevity in Evans. You can't play him every single game, week in, week out. So I think the opportunity for Yoro, and he'll know this as well, if you're going to come into the team and perform, now is your chance. Who does he play alongside? I think in terms of balance, if you want the best partnership, I would go with Lissandro and Yoro, and hopefully Lissandro improves on his performances. I think they complement the opposite of complicate. They complement each other really, really well. You've got Yoro, who, you know, defending space is fantastic. 1v1 is amazing. Defending wide channels is great as well. He's good on the ball. Really, really tall. Got that recovery pace. I think him alongside Lisandro Martinez, who's a great progressor of the ball, a good leader, usually, this is saying, because he's had a really bad start to the season. Those two, I think, can be fantastic. I'm not writing off De Ligt completely, but especially if Tuchel comes in, I mean, I would probably write De Ligt off. He'll probably be fuming because he said something the other day. I saw a quote that he's never had more than like a year and a half under a manager. So to have Ten Hag in now is great. And now you're like, oh, well, if he goes and Tuchel comes in, you're definitely fucked again, mate. He might have to move to Barcelona, another big club. So we'll see what happens with that. But from what I saw, we only saw bits and pieces, didn't we, in pre-season. But I really liked what I saw. You know, even the switches of play from the back, didn't realise he had that in his locker. He's really, really good on the ball. And from what I saw at Lille, he was decent. He was playing Champions League football regular and looking like one of the best defenders at the age of 18. So I'm excited, really, really excited about him. Nice to see some more of you coming into the chat. Hello, everyone. Elite Baller. We've got in here, we've got Lucky Singh as well, Richard Hawkins, Alex as well. Andy's saying when De Gea won the Golden Glove, he had a lot of howlers, same as Andre. De Gea couldn't save a penalty for his life at United and saved 2 in one game. I work business, and my advice to Manchester owners, hire Ruud van Nistelrooy. Well, I disagree, but that's fine. I just don't think our defence is the problem. I think it's the midfield. It would be nice to see the double pivot in more than one game. I agree the midfield, there's conversations there, because if you look at the game against Villa, we've got Eriksen, Casemiro, Evans, Maguire, Lindelof on the pitch. And Ten Hag's talking about progression. Where's the progression? You've got £450 million worth of talent sat on the bench. But defensively, Porto, Tottenham, Liverpool, defence hasn't been great. Yoro being so young and getting injured was an actual blessing in disguise for the lad. He hasn't been in the A-team and currently a scapegoat for the nightmare. I hope Yoro doesn't play in this shocking system. Yeah, but I think that's the one. Isn't it weird? I was sat here saying the one positive is like Yoro's back. And we've not even seen him in the starting lineup yet. But I think what he brings into the team, because you do have that recovery pace, and I think sometimes De Ligt dives in and misses it, and there's this huge space to defend. Yoro, we've seen, even in pre-season he did it, his recovery pace is fantastic. So you can push up. And look at how good Lisandro was next to Rafael Varane. I think Lisandro at the moment is missing a Rafael Varane, I really do. Yoro next to him could bring out the best in both of them. A lot of pressure to put on a young kid, I don't want to do that, but yeah, I want to see him personally. I want to see him. Shaw would be fantastic as well, but let's be honest, no one's holding their breath with Luke Shaw either. I just feel like he's never ever going to be fit at any point in the season. I think he'll probably play 2 weeks. That's it. So yeah. We've had H coming out on Twitter as well, who I respect his opinion quite a lot, saying Tuchel's my preference if Ten Hag is to go at some point. Interesting. A lot of people turning now. We've had Toby Collier, first call up to the under-20 squad. Wish him all the best. So, yeah, we're still waiting ultimately, aren't we, on that news? I know you guys are probably as impatient as I am. I just want to know. I want to know the clarity on it. Otherwise, I feel like we're going to be sat here discussing potential this, potential that. Make a decision on it. Drink milk and honey. That's the best you could do for your throat and voice. Milk and honey. That sounds quite nice, to be fair. I feel like that'd be quite nice. Just milk and honey in general. I think it would be nice. Never thought about that. I was very sceptical about De Ligt before we signed him. He is Def's second choice to Yoro. From what I've seen, I think so. But then how will De Ligt handle that? Because he wants to be the main man in that back line. But I think... I don't know. I want to cast your minds back. I don't know if anyone will remember this. To like the start of the season. And when De Ligt was playing. And I think it was Sam or Shreyas who asked me. And he said, out of all the new signings, who do you think's going to flop? Or who do you think's going to fail? And I said, I don't know why there's something in me about De Ligt that I'm watching him, and I don't like the way he dives in a lot. He wants to be touch tight and go to the man, and he misses out quite a lot doing that. He's not the quickest, but I think he does have aerially. He's decent. He's a threat in the box. 1v1 is decent for the majority of times. I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about him at the minute. I'm undecided. Lisandro's been exposed because Ten Hag is using Dallo inverted and he's asking for Lisandro to defend channels when that's not his game. Yeah. But who do you think? We'll end on this, right? because I think this is an interesting thing to discuss. If Tuchel was to come in, who do you think would line up in his system? So, obviously, typically he plays with a back five, but he has tweaked it, you know. I think at PSG at times he was playing like a 4-2-2. At Dortmund, he was playing more, I think it was like a 4-3-3 attack, like a 4-2-3-1 kind of system. But obviously Chelsea was a back five. I think Bayern Munich was a back five at times, but, you know, kind of flexible. So, yeah, who do you think would start under Tuchel? I'm gonna go with mine, and then I'll read yours out. So I think Onana would come in. You know, I think he's got similar qualities to like a Mendy at Chelsea. I think Onana would come in. I think it would be Lissandro, Maguire, and Yoro as your back five. I think Dalot would go back over to right wing back because I don't think he necessarily liked what do you call it? Managerial, did he? He wasn't the starter, but maybe I might be wrong on that. If Shaw comes back in, I'd expect Shaw to go in at wing back. And then I think midfield, Kobe, Casemiro, potentially, just for that experience. And then I think, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I think Mount would probably feature if you could keep him fit. I think he would definitely be a player that he goes to and he trusts, and it would deploy him higher up. And then I think Rasmus and probably Rashford. Probably Marcus Rashford. That's what I'd go with. Obviously, a lot of speculation, but that's the way I think he would go. Erik Ten out, CR7 in. That's from Vache. David Pearson, everything he does seems to lead to a goal. I know, that's what I mean. It doesn't... There was a lot of comparisons with Maguire's, but yeah, I don't know. I think Maguire's playing better at the moment, that's for sure. 5 at the back might suit us if we push up high. 3-5-2 is the way to go. A lot of people happy about it. Elite Ball is saying, Nick, our fullbacks are not doing much attacking-wise. Your thoughts? Yeah, I think Andy alluded to it before. He's having Dalot kind of invert into midfield. So what happens then is your left winger, like a Rashford, becomes isolated and doesn't have those underlapping or overlapping runs for support that opens up the space for him. He does do it sometimes. But the only time I can remember a wing-backs putting crosses into the box was Dalot against Brighton on his left foot. And it was a really good cross as well. And Ahmad probably should have finished the chance. But yeah, we don't do that enough. The full-backs seem to get a nosebleed when they get anywhere near the byline or the final third. They seem to like anywhere just before the 18-yard box. They're happy to like, right, this is where we depart. Give the ball away. Managerial is good at combinations and offering solutions in different positions, but they're not ones that really overlap like a Reece James and, you know, put crosses into the box. And I'd like to see that. We low-key need to sell Garnacho before his PR dies. That's from Blitz Extreme. Bit harsh. And I bet Tuchel buys a proven goal scorer. Yeah, I think so. I think so. You look at, I mean, he got Kane at Bayern Munich, didn't he? I think he would want a senior figure in that forward line as your bagsman. I really, really do. But interesting times, guys. I don't know if anything's going to get announced today. I hope so we can discuss it and move forward. But it just seems to be lingering. They talk about business as usual. There was a couple of reports. Did I read it out before? That United are yet to clarify the future, and they said, you know, nothing should be read into the club's failure to communicate an outcome. What that means, I have no idea. But one can only speculate at the moment. We're going to be back at 6 o'clock with a different kind of show. I'm also going to record a members video in a moment as well, because we've not put one out in a while. So if you want to become a member, click the join button next to the notification bell. It's about £2-3 a month. Just helps us. We put it back into the channel into things like Photoshop, you know, all the Adobe programs, and just making the channel better, basically. So yeah, if you want to become a member, click the join button next to the notification bell. Not seen My Damned United or Random Guy in a while. And Steph. I've not seen Steph in a bit. And I think there's a couple others as well. Shah, Sam. So yeah, I hope you're all right. I don't know if you typically watch these shows later, but big up to those guys as well. And yeah, big up to yourselves. I'll see you in a bit, yeah.